Oh, you know what I need to do.
I'm gonna kick it off, Mike.
You want me to kick it off?
Yeah, well, with our treasurer is running a few minutes late, so Mike is gonna get the finance committee started while we're waiting for Sophie to join us.
Sorry, I have to make sure I'm logged into Facebook first.
Just tell us when you're ready.
I don't know if this-
Like how George has the name tag too.
Yeah.
Talking about.
I was actually gonna put it back and then I got creative thinking, well, he'll be right there. It's a perfect spot.
I can't find my little mouse there.
Oh.
Got it. There we go.
You okay?
Good.
All right, super. Welcome, everybody. Like Karen had said, Sophie's running a little bit late, the MRC treasurer. So I will get started and first item is welcome and the second item will be the budget report and proposed 2002 budget adjustments. So your first document that you should have had in your packet is the budget reconciled up to the end of third quarter. You know, we're at 79% of budget, which is really not too bad because we paid some things up front. You know, we've had several annual payments when it comes to insurance and those type of things. So those have already been paid. We do have things running over like securing the plant and legal services. Also traveling training that's due for all the time that we have to spend at the plant mostly is what that is. And then health insurance, employee health insurance due to a change that we made there mid-year. But what we're able to do is as we go through the next piece of things on revising the budget, you can see where we've moved some things around. But we're fairly good on budget. We're at 75% of revenue, which is great. And we're at 79% of expenses. And like I said, that's with the annual payments we've made. I feel that we're going to be okay on budget this year. And we're gonna come in fine on it. Any questions?
So have we adjusted the budget or are we
Yes.
going to adjust the budget?
Well,
Have
if
these
you-
already been adopted?
No,
Oh, okay,
this is for you guys to
gotcha.
approve.
Proposed for action at the meeting today.
Yes.
So what's the actual adjustment you're looking for, Mike?
So nothing. I just moved things around. So I
So
think
it's the
that's
same, yeah.
Yeah, so we've been able to get very creative here and just move a bunch of stuff around and I can go over what we've done
You
there.
know, that's clear from the document, but isn't that within your
I
authority to do
would
that?
have thought it would be, just
I
moving
don't
stuff
think
along
we need to
lines
do
to.
it.
Oh, I
You're-
bet maybe
you're-
Sophie knows
Yeah.
better about
You're the
that.
target.
We had to move some things around. A big expense is we've inherited a lot of office supplies, so we were able to cut the office supplies down. Quite a bit, so. Yeah, but I'd still, so if nobody has any questions on the reconciled budget, I can go over this quickly. For what we had to move around and what we've done. There was no changes, obviously, in adjustments for revenue. Everything's there stays the same. So where you needed an adjustment was under administration, a lot falls under administration. What we're able to do there is our office rent has increased and we've had an increase in staff health insurance. But in expenses, we were able to lower our expenses when it came to postage, office supplies, some office equipment we were looking at the beginning of the year. So we were able to do a significant drop in those things for an adjustment that will need to happen of a $5,700 difference. Financial services had no change. Technical and consulting services, we were able to drop that down by $39,000. We reduced our engineer cost, and a lot of our technical consultant cost is going into the securing CRM line item. Legal services, that we saw a $12,000 increase. That's all for everything we're dealing with right now, with securing the plant, the acquisition of the plant. Miscellaneous, we had 10,000 in miscellaneous. We have dropped miscellaneous now down to 2,000, and we've used 8,000 of that towards the other items that we've needed to add funding to. And contingency, that was the big one. Contingency had 73,758 in it. We used 60,000 of that, and we dropped the contingency line item down to 13,000. So we still have a few months left, but we still have $15,000 if something comes up in either a miscellaneous or contingency. And then the biggest jump here is securing the expensive CRM. You know, we started this year out with, we're going to have a buyer in March, and then we were going to have some change in June, and we still have this thing. So it still requires legal, technical, a lot of permitting stuff's going on. So I was way off budget on securing the CRM facility, and that's where a lot of the funds had to be dumped into to adjust the budget.
Question, if I may, and
Absolutely.
we've been in transition now for a long time. We finally own this thing. So the one thing we haven't been able to account for within our budget process is the bypass. It hasn't been our responsibility. It is now.
So
MRC owns it.
what we've done now is, as of the acquisition date, we are tracking all the expenses on a spreadsheet under MWS.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah,
And then we didn't know how long this was going to carry on. So we want to give this a little, stop me if I'm wrong here.
I'm listening.
We want to give this a little more time, because where the acquisition date for the partnership is so close, then we can reconcile everything.
Yep.
If for some reason that gets extended, or we don't have a reasonable time frame, there will be a whole nother set of books and accounts all started, and everything will be moved around properly.
So we're trying right now to just manage this on paper to separate the two transactional entities.
Yep.
If it stays for much longer, we're gonna have to make it a more formal shift.
Okay.
But, yeah, so as Mike continues to remind me, MRC and MSW are really, although we own both of them right now, they really are two separate entities. So I start thinking of it like my sewer system, right? It's just, it's its own enterprise fund. So we're just trying to avoid the pulling everything apart, and then hopefully in very short order having to re-establish.
There's not a lot, there really is.
No, I get it,
but so.
yeah.
For the short time that MWS has owned it and was created. So.
Thank you.
I'm gonna be late to every finance meeting. This is awesome.
So that is the review of the budget report and proposed budget adjustments. Is there any questions on that?
Well,
Karen, you had a question, I believe, about, is
Oh.
this something that we really?
Yeah, so do we actually need to take a vote on reallocating amongst lines?
So it
Makes you feel better?
makes me feel better, at least, and if you notice, he reallocated to the lines that we show the public. We didn't get into the nitty,
Yeah,
yes.
The detail, yeah.
the
right.
detail.
Mhm.
So I think what's important for the board to acknowledge through a vote is the budget cost centers are shifting. I guess I look at those kind of like departments in a town, and I don't have the authority to just move money from between departments, but I can within departments.
And we feel like these are gonna get us pretty close to the end of the year and be pretty on target.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, I mean, pending any major curveballs, and that would be something to do with the plan. This time, MRC and MRC's business with their membership and everything else is all on track.
Yeah.
So.
So the answer is yes, please.
And that will be in the next round,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Okay. That's all for that. If there's no more questions, do you want me to continue with accounts payable?
You're doing a great job.
So, this was the accounts payable for September, and that would close off the quarter. This is one of the lowest months we've had, so I'm happy that this is the one we have to sit down and talk about. We did have some catch up to do with, legal got behind on billing us last month due to some staff and COVID, I believe, in their office, but everybody's all caught up. We're all billed. And so these are the proposed payables for 25,903.76.
Can I just highlight one concern I have about the payables? And that is, I just want to highlight for people Mike's travel expenses. And it is not because I think Mike is over counting his travel. In fact, I think he's undercounting it. I think he's undercounting the reimbursements he's asking the MRC to make to him. But he is kind of falling into a pattern that even after the transfer of ownership of the plant, we would kind of expect, we want him to be a presence. I am really concerned at maintaining that level, not only in dollars and cents, but also in the wear and tear on his personal vehicles. So I just want to highlight for folks that if we are able to transfer this, when we are able to transfer the plant, I really do think we need to be looking at another solution for travel.
Thank you. You make me nervous there. I wasn't sure we were moving.
We have to start walking.
At least you didn't say.
Thought you were gonna move me down there, so.
At least you didn't say ultimate solution.
Yeah.
That's the hope.
Yeah. We get him. So, yeah, that's where we are with payables for September and closing our third quarter.
So any
Can't ask.
any questions about that? Do people have any concerns? So I can say that we all want the bills to be paid. All right. Unless if I can talk Mike into making the report for the finance committee at the board meeting. That would be-
I think the next one's you, because you talked about, or you saw that.
Yeah, so the next thing on this agenda is the investment cash. So right now we've got 1.24 million total as of the close of this quarter's books, right? When George did his report, we had a total 1.2. You can see our tip-free allocation and our asset account are both low. We knew that was going to happen. When we look at the benchmarks in these, we're trying to keep them as close to cash as we can. They are it is not a time right now that we want to, I think, do a lot with these funds. We want them liquid and we want them to try to stop as much of the hemorrhage as we can. I would, so I am not suggesting any change. We continue, Mike and George continue to give the direction of liquidity and security to the amount that we can manage, and they continue to trend for us. So I would expect to see the cash number begin to go up over the next 2 quarters. But I want to just make sure everybody hears, if we continue in the pattern that we're holding right now, so if the operation today continues as we're doing it right now, we have got 6 to 7 months of operating. That includes the severance that would be owed to Mike. And I want,
But does not include closure of the plant and
Does-
all of that, no, the costs associated with that.
but legally, our first responsibility in all of that is making sure that we're taking care of our employee and managing the orderly whatever transition if we need to. I'm not there yet. I am so not there yet. But I want to make sure people understand that.
Yep.
So as we circle and try to get, well, we just need to know that. So
Wow, there.
on that happy note,
Are they gonna update the title of our
yes.
postal accounts?
In fact, that's gonna take some paperwork, Mike, but if you could get that started, I would get that finished. And probably won't go signature too.
I'd be happy to give that. Wipe the slate with you.
And under other business, the only other thing I would just bring to people's attention, you know,
Oh, George.
George.
George's report.
Oh, do people have questions about the asset management report? One of the things I was trying to avoid from the full presentation in finance committee, because he turns around and does a full presentation in the full board meeting, and that seems like not a really efficient use of time or energy. Boredom might kick in for some of us, so I'm just saying. Any questions for George?
Not so much a question, but again, an observation. As you pointed out, we've transitioned. We have a new ownership arrangement. And somewhere, somehow, on the effective date of that arrangement, there should have been an accounting and an asset and the liability structure for MWS. And we haven't seen that.
So Mike and George have been working with Colleen on the books to frame even just in on the general ledger, some of that. Working with an outside vendor, you're sometimes at the mercy of their timing, but
Well, but when the transfer does occur, we have to have a starting point.
Yep.
And it's important what that starting point is.
Yeah, Bob, I just turn your attention to table 1 of the asset manager letter because there are a couple new entries. We are not tracking MWS yet. We are tracking MRC advances and investment to and investment in MWS, which at this point are the same thing. So if you look at the balance sheet, you'll see actually a basis for the investment in MWS for the MRC. There's the acquisition cost, which we know what that is. It's 150 down payment in the market.
No, I didn't see that, George. Yep.
Yeah, and then the other advances, so all they have to do the accounting is the other side of the ledger from MWS. So all the numbers are there. The only question is something gonna change on November 10th, one way or the other, that would make us do it one way or another? And rather than taking the risk of doing it twice, we have the numbers internally, we're showing them as an MRC asset, but we're not doing an independent WS balance sheet yet.
That's fair.
Okay.
Thank you.
the other highlight on George's sheet, you'll notice we have continued making the payments to lien holders.
Yes.
So
Right.
any other questions for George?
Yes, so the lien costs, is that being carried as a MWS cost?
Yes.
Well, right now it's being,
Not full liability for that, are we?
yeah, since there's joint liability, the MRC and MWS doesn't have its own funds. It's shown on the MRC balance sheet. This is one of those things that if we had 2 balance sheets, we'd show it for MWS and then consolidate it. But since we're not exactly sure how that's going to work, and if they get paid off in December, then by the end of the year, it's a lot easier to deal with. So let's just see. So, for right now, it's shown as a liability on the MRC balance sheet. And it's noted below, we've got the records of I showed them group because I don't want to show the individual lien holder liabilities. So I just have a total rather than individuals. And I don't want to share that schedule yet because it's sensitive to the individual lien holders. So that's all we're doing at this point. And hopefully November 10th, we'll get an infusion of cash and or shortly thereafter. And then we'll have, some additional work to do on accounting when we have funds to pay for it.
I record each payment on the MWS spreadsheet. Is what I meant.
So, and actually, Michael and I have kind of complementary systems that serve as a system of internal control. So we're going back and forth and making sure we end up in the same place.
Okay, any other questions for George? I think we're good. Any other finance issues? Okay, my work here is done. Well, Mike's work here is done. So I think we're,
Next one we'll do at 9:45.
I'm up. Totally.
So if you guys want to take a break for till 10 o'clock?
I gotta turn into a 10.